7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is up, everybody? It is me. It is the dad bod god himself, the bald, the beard, the fucking beautiful Piers Austin, and we are back for another episode of Shooting the Shit Uncensored. So it's time for everyone to sit back, relax, pour yourself a stiff one, crack yourself a cold one, whatever it is you like to do. Sit back and enjoy this amazing episode we're about to have with my very good guest, referee Nick. I'm excited to have Nick on. I've been wanting to have him on for a while. He's probably the most over referee in Australian wrestling, and I definitely want to get into his career and how he's gotten to the point where he is now, working with PWA and as well as many of the other top promotions in Australia. But guys, before we get into our interview with Nick, I just want to take a quick pause for the cause to thank those sponsors that help us keep the lights on up in this bitch, because you know those fluoro lights are expensive. First up is healthvape.com. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Health Vape is your healthy vaping alternative. All of their products have no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals, and they are vitamin infused. So guys, if you are a smoker, someone you know is a smoker or a vapor or whatever it is that you want to call it, get them on healthvape.com. Use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Guys, next up is sleefs.com. That's SLEEFS. Sleefs.com is your one-stop shop for all your athletic wear needs. If you're an athlete or someone you know is an athlete, you need to check out sleefs.com. They've got armbands, headbands, compression pants, compression shorts, compression socks, mouth guards, boots. They've even got dirty boxes. And guys, these dirty boxes, they sent me a box of the boxes. A box of the box. Yeah, that makes sense. They sent me a shit ton of these fucking boxes, right? And they are the most comfortable boxes I own. I threw everything else out in the bin. And, they keep me dry all day. They stay fresh. They stay comfortable. So check out sleeves.com and check out some of their dirty boxer range. Use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Now, guys, I have to say, MWA Podcast Network, we are like dropping shows nearly every single day, guys. We have 7 shows available for you guys every single week. We've got Killing the Business with former ECW original, the Kingpin, Angel Medina, King Mega, and the Burger King, Glenn Sexton. We've got Knights of the Gimmick Table hosted by the Dead Presidents, Boogaloo and Lowrider. We've got Get Funked, hosted by former WCW and TNA star Alan Kwee Funk. We've got the Funk and Kingpin Show. We got Wrestling with Sports. We got NXT Roundup, and we got Shooting the Shit Uncensored. So, guys, wherever you are finding us, as long as you are finding us, wherever you are finding us, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that comment button. Hit all the buttons, guys. Help us out. But, guys, without further ado, I'm going to bring on my guest of the evening, the man of the moment, PWA's senior official, referee Nick. Nick, thank you for joining me, man.
I'm good. Thank you for having me. And I just need to stress here that it's not the senior official; it's the junior senior official. I'm convinced. I'm pretty sure I'm one of the youngest referees in the country. I'm pretty sure referee Hannah has me beat by a year. But even then, the fact that I'm like the second youngest referee in the country, but I'm like the top referee in the company, like, you know, I don't want to put myself over too much, and I've already done it, and I've been here for 30
Hey man,
seconds.
hey dude, age is just a number, man. Like if you're good, you're good. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's not bragging if if you can't back. You know what I mean? It's not bragging if you back it up. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I guess so.
Susie Suave in the audience. What's up, kiddos? Thank you for tuning in. And everyone loves Nick, but
Yeah.
Nick, like getting into your career as a referee, was refereeing like part of the wrestling business that you really enjoyed as a kid, or like when did it sort of come to you like the stripes was the way to go?
So I stumbled into it. It was never something that I was planning on doing. So the way that I started out was I was thinking about starting to train to wrestle. And it's still something I want to do, but it's kind of like in the back of my mind currently. But at the time, I was just like, oh, I kind of want to wrestle. I want to see what I can see. And there was a promotion that just put out, it's like, hey, one of our referees has retired. And I was like, sweet. I will message them, see if I can train with them, be a referee, do that for like a year, maybe two, do a bunch of shows for different people. And then because everyone from there will know who I am, know that it's like, oh, this guy, he's reliable and everything. Once I start to become a wrestler, then they'll start booking me as a wrestler. That was 5 years ago. So
Like
I'm
once
here
you
now.
but once you started reffing, were you like, this is like, I actually enjoy this more, I want to continue doing this as opposed to being a wrestler? Or is being a wrestler still something that of a plan of yours, because you're still a young dude?
Yeah. So I was actually still training regularly from about January 2017 to about October, November 2018. I was training at the PWA, like the Pro Wrestling Academy. And I kind of had to deal with my own like mental health problems with that. And then by the time that I was comfortable with coming back, I felt like it's like, well, I'm okay with where I am as a referee. I'm okay with what I'm doing. I'm getting a lot of these opportunities that I don't think as a wrestler I would be getting these opportunities. So I just was like, you know what? I'm comfortable with where I am. I'm comfortable with what I'm doing, and I'll continue to do that until I feel like I've done everything I can as a referee and go to be a wrestler. But that's something that I know is going to take time, because I can't just like jump from one to the other. I have to put in the work. I have to put in the effort at the Pro Wrestling Academy, and I have to be doing all this stuff. And I know I have to start from the bottom again as a wrestler instead of starting as the referee who's been booked pretty much in every promotion in New South Wales, like doing all of this. I know that that's something that I kind of have to mentally get myself prepared for as well as physically. But for the time being a referee is something that I'm quite proud of. I'm very happy to be doing, and I'm very happy to be passing along some knowledge onto some newer referees as well.
Yeah, and I think as well, like as you said, been doing it for 5 years, and then getting to the point where it's like, okay, I'm enjoying what I'm doing at the moment, getting to this sort of stage, and enjoying the moment of it. And I think that the referee is one of the things. Like for me, like a good referee will goes unnoticed. A bad referee is always, what I mean, in the wrong spot or something like along the lines like that. So I think like to be a referee, I think the ring awareness, you really need to know, like almost like how every person who gets in that ring that you referee moves in that ring.
Yeah, I know. I've had this conversation with John Anderson as well previously, and we've used the word like referee psychology. So it's an understanding of what to do in the ring, how to move in the ring, and like understanding what the wrestlers are doing and then what you need to do because of that. Like if I'm seeing someone setting up for a move and I know that they go for a pin after that, I'm going to move around to the side where the shoulders are going to be, because if I'm like waiting on the other side and then they go for the pin, it takes that extra second. And people are going to be like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like this is all happening. But if I'm already there, immediately I can go down for the pin for that. So it's just kind of learning about that. And that's only stuff that you're going to learn over time, being put in matches, being put in experiences like that.
Do you remember the first match you refed?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember who was in it? Like, can you set the scene?
I
for
remember
it?
the exact match. I remember the exact show. I remember the exact date. September 3rd, 2016, AWF Night of Champions. It was the Bullet Click, which was Spaceboy Daisy and Blake Stone versus DJ Sonic and Diego Del Fuego.
Yeah, right.
And that was my first ever match.
How did it go? Like, set the scene. Tell us about it.
It was. I don't remember much about it. I do remember at one point Blake Stone is choking, I think, DJ Sonic. And I'm thinking, because he's kind of like talking to me as a heel and whatnot. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to be distracted, but he's choking him. And then, like, to me, quite like silently, he goes, I'm choking him. You got to count. And I'm like, oh, God. So then I start counting. And I'm like, from there, I'm like, all right, I'm done. This is it. This is my only show. All right, goodbye, friends. Like, I was out. I was done.
But I think that's the thing. Like, everyone's first show, like, you have to be given like a little bit of grace period. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like that's because like you're terrified because like this is a completely new environment. Because I was just learning with like the rookies and everything, like and doing all that stuff, and then I'm just put in with people who have been there for the longest time. Like my first show had Shaz McKenzie and Concrete Davidson, two people who are regulars on PWA now. Yeah. And at the time, I was just some small time referee who didn't know anything, who knew about these people who've been around for years. And I actually, that may have been my first match, but my second match was actually with Concrete Davidson. I got another story about that. It was Concrete Davidson and Liam Brudge, and they're talking to me because I don't want to, don't want to peek behind the curtain too much, but yeah, wrestling's predetermined. It's just, do you want to? Do you want to do
no,
it? I know.
Dude, now you're going to tell me fucking Santa Claus doesn't exist, bro. Like, really?
No.
And the Easter Bunny? Fuck you, Nick.
So, they're talking through the match and everything, and I'm like, hey, I'm your referee. What's the ending of the match and everything? And Liam Brudge turns to me quick as a whistle and goes, it's the Toronto Destroyer. And I'm like, do you mean the Canadian Destroyer? And he goes, no, the Toronto Destroyer. And I'm like very confused. Concrete immediately turns to Massive Q, who's also there. And Concrete goes, oi, this guy doesn't know what the Toronto Destroyer is. Q immediately goes, oh, how does he not know? So I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So for the next 10 minutes, I'm like Googling on my phone, what is Toronto Destroyer wrestling move? And I go up to them and I'm like, hey, what's a Toronto Destroyer? And they fucking piss themselves. They lose it. And just because like they were so nice about it as well, because it's just like giving shit to the new guy. And I thought it was like, looking back on it now, I thought it was hilarious. And I remember I told Concrete about this years later, and he goes, yeah, I don't remember that whatsoever, but that definitely sounds like something I would do.
Jesus Christ. But you mentioned refereeing on your first show and people like Concrete Davidson and Shaz McKenzie on the show, and you said that they and at that point they had made big names of themselves in this country. Were you a massive fan of the Australian scene before you sort of broke into it?
Not really, to be honest with you. I knew of it. I knew like small things here and there. But beyond that, I didn't really know anything. I kind of just had to learn on the job. And I think one of the people who helped me out with kind of learning about that was Jack Shorten, because the year prior to me starting, I actually did backyarding with him. So we became good friends with that. And he became my first real friend in wrestling. So I started just traveling with him to places. We'd go up to the Hunter Valley in Newcastle, down all the way to Canberra. And for the first year or so, he was probably the guy that taught me most about Australian wrestling, getting me on shows that I necessarily wouldn't have gotten on without him. And he helped me a lot with kind of learning about that. And he's the one that kind of introduced me to PWA, because I was going to go to one of their shows like prior, but it got canceled for whatever reason. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just never went to another show or planned to go to another one of their shows. And him and a bunch of the other guys, like some of his friends, went, hey, why don't you come to the Pro Wrestling Academy? And I was like, yeah, fuck it. All right. So I started doing that, and I've never turned back. It's not something I'm ever going to like walk away from, at least anytime soon.
Yeah. And that's like nearly everything that everyone says that goes to PWA. And how it is like it's, you know what I mean, everyone puts over the amazing family atmosphere of it, and you can kind of and you see it at shows, you know what I mean, like how you know what I mean, like before and after the shows, everyone is just very welcoming and very chill, and it's like from all aspects of the business. And I think that's you know, obviously the way, like, you can put on amazing shows. There doesn't necessarily have to be the wrestling politics involved in everything. You know what I mean? Like, you can always see that what is good for the show is always put first, you know, when you attend that show, but also a very, you know, structured, welcoming environment as well.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I love about PWA, is that they at least understand that the show comes first, and you need to put that forward more than anything. Is you don't want to put any, like, you know, backstage politics into what's going on, or you don't want to, you know, like be like, oh, you're not going to do this because I hate you or anything. Like, it's like what's good for the show is good for the show, and almost every single time it works out for what it needs to be. And that's kind of why I've stuck to it, is because of that. It's because of, as you said, the family like atmosphere in PWA. And I know a lot of people have like come in and, you know, they might not see it the same way that we do, but I know the people who have stuck through and tried to like get to know everyone, learn about the family oriented like people that we are, like, they can say the same thing, that it's truly a family at PWA.
And that's the thing, man. Like, you know, you mentioned, you know, some people might not feel that way, and it's like, you know, you can't please everybody. You know what I mean? Like, and that's in any sort of facet of life. Like, you're never gonna have that moment where it's like everyone gets along and it's all like sunshine and lollipops, because it can't always be like that. But, you know, real recognizes real. That's something I always say when I say stuff like that.
Yeah, because I know, like, I have some friends who have gone to PWA and trained there, and it just wasn't their thing, and that's completely okay. It's not something that's for everyone, because with PWA, especially the training, they're pushing to be the best. They're pushing to go on and become bigger, like, than what it is now. Even though Australian wrestling is blowing up, they want to be the guys who are going to WWE, who are going to AEW, New Japan as a whole, or Mexico, or any of this stuff. And that's not for everybody. Some people just want to do this as a hobby, and I don't blame them whatsoever. People have real lives, people have real jobs, and this is something that they like, but it's not something that they want to put every ounce of effort into, and I don't blame them for that whatsoever. I feel like if you are going to go to PWA, that's something that you have to get your mindset like about. That's the mindset that you have to be in if you want to go. It's like, they're going to push you, and they're going to push you hard, but they want to push you because they know that you can be good.
Absolutely. And you know what, and as you said, it's fine for people who don't want to be at that level. But that's the thing, when you're around, like, it sounds like PWA is surrounded by a bunch of killers that want to, you know, and I mean killers in a positive way, not mass murderers, but a bunch of killers that are just on another level of in the wrestling world. You know, like we saw, you know, 2 get signed in the last 12 months and go over there and be put in on regular TV on a 90-minute program, and featured heavily in that. You know, that says a lot about Australian wrestling, but also says a lot about PWA as a training facility of breeding, you know, future stars in the business of professional wrestling.
Yeah. And I think if you just look at what the PWA roster has been doing, like, over the past couple of years, it's insane. We've had Ricky South, who is the last ever Young Lions Cup champion. We've had Mick Moretti, who pushed for Australian wrestling to become bigger, and because of him, it's blown up. He went over to the US to essentially wave the flag of Australian wrestling, and it worked out. You've seen people like Jessica Troy, Charlie Evans, Madison Eagle, Shazza McKenzie, Belle Pierce now as well, all going to Shimmer. You've seen people like the Velocities go over to the US. Wrestling in King of Trios. They were going to be, specifically Paris and Jude were going to be booked on PWG if it wasn't for the pandemic. The Nations have gone over multiple times as well. Caveman Ugg, all these people, and not even forgetting Robbie Eagles, who, you know, a couple days ago was a double champion in New Japan, which was unheard of 2 years ago. And that's just PWA. Like, that is an insane thing to think about. And that's just coming from one promotion in Australia.
And that's the thing where I think now that there's a lot of eyes, and I said, you know, before, when the pandemic happened and we started to open up again and start having shows again regularly, Australia was the only place in the world where like shows were at pretty much like full capacity or close to full capacity. And so, in the rest of the world to watch live wrestling, Fight TV, independent wrestling TV, what's going on? Oh, shit. Live crowds in Australia. Let's check this shit out. So it gets a lot more eyes on it in that aspect. But, you mentioned some of these guys, having opportunities and going overseas. What about you? Like, have you, planned to sort of, obviously with the pandemic, it's been hard to travel internationally, but like, have you, thought about yourself about going and, going over to the United States, going over to Japan and going over these places and working some of these indie scenes over there?
Like, absolutely. Like, one of the things that benefits me is I'm technically still a US citizen. Like, I was born there. I had the passport. I'm all good. I'm only an Australian resident. So even during the pandemic, I could have technically gone over there at any point. It's just I don't have the money for that, because I don't know if you know this. Going over to the United States is it's like an arm and a leg and one of your kidneys. So I know I was thinking about doing Dallas WrestleMania weekend for next year, but I know I was talking with some of my friends, but we were thinking about doing Los Angeles the year after, because I feel like that would be a better area to go to as well. And especially because I can go over and I can see my dad, who's been over there for the last couple of years. I can see my extended family, who I haven't seen since I was like legitimately maybe like 6 or 7.
Like, so make it a proper trip, and
yeah, absolutely. And I know that building up to that with just like 18 months, that's something that I can save up for, and it's something that I can look forward to. But with that, I want wrestling to be a part of that, because wrestling is one of the biggest parts of my life. It's something that I love doing. It's something that I love being a part of. But I think as well, what benefits me is because I'm a referee, it would be easier to get on these shows or get these bookings than being a wrestler, because being a wrestler, you have to do so much stuff. But with being a referee, they really only have 2, maybe 3. So I could probably slot myself into some of these shows just purely because I'm I'm doing something different than what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, 100%. And I think as well, like, by slotting in as well, you mentioned like most indie shows, they've got like 2, maybe 3 referees on the show, depending on the size of the card. So it's kind of easy to sort of put someone in there and go, oh yeah, we'll give this guy a shot, try him out here. And, obviously having the US citizenship as well, that's another plus, because then it's like unlimited time. You can go and pursue that dream there if you desire.
Yeah. Which like really helps with, going over there. I know the first time I brought that up, we were just backstage, and I think it was at an FWA show. And I brought up that I was a US citizen, and Shazza McKenzie she wants to go over there. Yeah, and she like turned, so it's like, yeah, US citizen, and genuinely was just like, what? Just like, she was so angry that I had this golden ticket in the palm of my hand, and I just actively wasn't using it, because she's like, I want to go over there, I want to do all the wrestles, and it's like, well, I'm poor, so
That's quite a response. What was her response to that? Was she like,
She was I was just like, look, I understand that you're in a very committed relationship. You're married and everything, but there's green card weddings. So long as you can get me bookings, I'm in.
well, there you go. I mean, like, live the dream, brother.
Look, I just need to stress here. She didn't take me up on the offer.
Yeah. Exactly. But as far as you're starting to get bookings as a referee and starting to work around that scene, did you have a mentor in the business that had been refereeing for a while that sort of took you under the wing and sort of like gave you pointers and tips on how to do things a little bit smarter and how to work in the ring?
John Anderson, like 100%. If it wasn't for him being on many of the shows that I was doing, I probably would have been like so much worse, like starting up, and it would have taken me so much longer to learn how to be a good referee. Because when I started, I think he was already 3 years into the business, and he would just teach me just like small things here and there. And over time, he started like teaching me more and more and learning about all this stuff. And through that, we became friends. And I owe so much of my refereeing to Ando, because if it wasn't for him, I'd probably still be doing like the worst companies like imaginable, doing the ones for like $5, maybe a handshake, a hot dog if they can afford it. So I really do owe him like my career pretty much.
Yeah, and I think that's like having a good mentor and someone you can sort of go to and get advice on, through any aspect, in professional wrestling, because I think it's such a broad business and so, like so many different sort of pockets of it as well. So it's good to be able to get that sort of, have someone there that can sort of like you can confide in and get, honest advice, from.
Yeah, and like as well as Ando, when I started training at PWA, because initially I was just trained and it was just like, you'll get it, go out there. But it wasn't until I went to PWA and the first maybe 2 or 3 shows, I had both Robbie and Madison Eagles pull me aside and go, hey, just a heads up, when this is happening, you should be doing this. Or, when someone's doing this to you, you need to be pushing back. Just small things, and especially from Robbie, who started out as a referee, and Madison, who's been doing it for however many years she's been doing it. It's like wrestling the amount of people. Like I learned like a couple weeks ago that she wrestled Hikaru Shida and Asuka on a random Shimmer card, and it's like, how the fuck does that like go under the radar? So it's just like she has so much like just knowledge under her wing, that just her taking that small time out to kind of teach me how to do this stuff, that actually meant so much to me. Same with Robbie.
Yeah, I think that, and that's the thing, like from what I've been told about their coaching style and training style, it's very, much like, educating and nurturing and developing the skill. And I think as well, like it goes to show that, the quality of a performer that you are as well, that people see that in and say, okay, like this guy is like, he gets it. Let's invest this time into him and let's try and sort of tweak it and get him to be a better performer and give him the tools to get there,
Yeah, absolutely.
But you mentioned earlier that pardon me, that you started out as a backyarder. First of all, I got to ask, what was your yard name? What
it was just my name. It was just Nick Gavi. Yeah, right. I didn't have any cool. I did have nicknames though.
All right. What were the nicknames?
My nickname was the Midnight Warrior, and then it was Starbound. I wasn't a high flyer. Why did I
really? Well,
I'm
Starbound, yeah, like that's some lucha libre shit right there, man.
Yeah. Oh, it was so cringe. It was so bad. Oh, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And I remember I told that to Jax for the first time, and Jax just goes, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life." And I was like, "Oh man."
Man, I think is like, but when you were doing the backyard stuff, was it like, were you doing like the crazy, like extreme sort of shit, or was it more of
So
like,
we like a little bit. I would say like the craziest thing. I wrestled in a 2 out of 3 falls match with one of the
Yeah.
guys. And the first fall was pinfalls only. The second falls was submission only. And the third fall was falls count anywhere. And I booked it because, of course, I did. And at one point, in Jax's backyard, there was just this rundown car that hasn't been used in years. Like it
Yeah.
needed every single mechanic in the area because he lives like 45 minutes outside of Wagga Wagga in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. Like he needs
Jesus.
every mechanic in like
Yeah.
the 45-kilometer radius to get that car
Yeah.
working again.
Yeah.
And the guy I was wrestling, he's like, "Oh, so what we can do is, you can put me through the windshield." And I was like, "What?"
Oh,
He's like, "Yeah, just put me through." So we pre-cracked it. We got a wrench and we like tapped it into the corners, just making sure so when we do it, it can actually break.
yeah.
So finally, time comes for it. I get him up on my shoulder. I'm supposed to give him a wasteland, like the terrible Wade Barrett finisher.
Yeah.
So I get him up, and I'm like terrified because I'm like, oh god, what if I hurt him? What if I like actually destroy this man, like this kid's life for this dumb backyard in front of like the 40 people, which hilariously was drawing more than a show in Sydney that night. So I'm like, oh no, and then he's like telling me, he's like, put me down. But what he was meaning by that is like, put me into it. So I like put him down and he goes, no, put me through. And I was like, okay. And I just like shitty spine buster. The thing cracks. It looks amazing. He didn't go through it. Thank God. Like he was fine. The crowd is stunned. The crowd is like terrified that I just injured this kid, that he's like dead. He's never going to recover from this. And I'm just like, oh, that was really cool. All right, let's go to the next spot now. And
so you had 40 people there?
Yeah, it was like, because it was all like Jax Jordan's like family and like friends and everything who were just like in the backyard. We had a photographer who was just like a local photographer.
So Jax Jordan's like uncles are standing there like drinking beers, going, "Yeah, go for it, fellas."
That's 100% what was happening because they knew that Jax was so into wrestling, so they were so into it as well. And just doing this, and it was the main event of the show. It was for the title that we had, that we all put in like $100 for to get made and shipped over, that eventually became Maddie Wahlberg's beer pong title, which is the funniest thing. So it was just like all of this stuff, and I love the final spot was we went up to, it was the top of the ladder, and by a ladder I mean it was a 3-rung ladder. We get up to the top of it and I give him the wasteland through a table. And it's just like some wood that we put legs on, put him through it. 1, 2, and I give him the Undertaker, gonna school him. So I pick him up and I bring him to the top of the, it's like the shed. So we climb up and we get to the top of the shed and there's another table. But the table has the legs used are like, they're not like regular like table legs that you would see. They're like the sturdy ones and they're wide. So you can hear, if there's footage still available, which I think Jax might have, when we're setting up. I gotta see this. Yeah, when we're setting up, you can hear Jax's mom go, no, Nick, no. Like, and then we do it, but it was the safest thing. He went through feet first through the table. It was so safe. It was the easiest thing. But like that and the windshield within like a 10-minute time span, like I could have ended this person's life in the backyard, in the middle of nowhere.
Fuck. So what? This is just like, you know, in front of like 40 people at a Jax Jordan family reunion, like barbecue. and like, because I'm just imagining, like, how old were you guys when this was going on?
We were like 16.
Oh, wow. like you thought you were like the baddest motherfuckers going,
We
right?
thought we
Like,
were the coolest thing. I had like the coolest entrance. I came out with like the hoodie up with the glasses on, coming out to the music, being called the Midnight Warrior. I thought it was the coolest thing in the entire world. And now looking back on it, I'm like, God, you were a loser.
look, at 16 years of age, man, like I think everyone, dude, like still, that's a pretty cool thing to do, man. Like to have people
Yeah.
like you know, what I mean, like it sounds like like at least the family that were there were like getting into it, not like going, what the fuck are these weird little kids up to? Like, but like, by the sound of it, like, you guys wanting to do the extreme spots, like, what kind of wrestling were you guys watching at that time that really sort of inspired you guys to do that?
Honestly, it was just like WWE stuff. Like that's what we did. We just like watched WWE. We would always just watch that because like that was the only thing. There was some, Impact, because Impact was on Fox 8, so we'd watch that as well. But really, we didn't know much of anything else besides WWE and Impact. So we just watched that. But like about like ECW, we watched like One Night Stands. We knew about like how WCW did some crazy stuff or some stupid stuff. So we were like aware of it because we were old enough and we had the internet. We could just learn about that. But yeah, honestly, it was just like we just wanted to do it, not because we were watching like deathmatch stuff or anything.
Yeah.
We just wanted to do it because we thought it was cool.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, it was like, what time was this around? Like the Ruthless Aggression era?
No, this was like hard in the PG era. This would have been like 2015.
Oh shit. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
No worries. Wow. Okay, so like you guys must have like, damn, bro, like that's like, you know what I mean? Like, is that wasn't happening on WWE television back then?
God no.
So you guys would have actually been like, hey, let's take it up a notch from the shit that we're seeing.
Yeah. What I love as well is like learning about everyone's different ring and whatnot. Our ring in the backyard was tires and then gym mats and then a top over the top. We didn't have ropes. And
Awesome.
anytime you did a top rope move, you had to get the tiny little step ladder that we had that was like 3 rungs and then jump off the top of that.
Oh. Jordan saying no one's seeing that. Hey man, you know what? Maybe we should do a special episode. I'm gonna try and get every Aussie wrestler that's done like backyard wrestling. We can do like Tales of the Yard or some shit like that.
Yeah.
I think that'd be pretty cool one to watch. But
yeah, we were super late stage as well because like all the big backyard, because like with Robbie and like HVWA and whatnot, like that was like early to mid like 2000s, like late 2000s, kind of around there as well.
Yeah,
but because we were in like 2015 and we thought we were cool because we're like, oh, actually, what we're going to do, instead of like editing it down to like a cool music video, we're going to put out the full match. And then when we watched it back a couple years later, we're like, we understand why they edited it down to be a music video.
Oh, yeah, I can just imagine a full match. Like, did you just play the same song over and over on the match, or like, was it?
God, it was just bad. We like actually tried to like work matches and like plan stuff, but we didn't know how to do anything.
So what kind of spots were you planning? Were you sort of like, instead of not knowing the names of how to do things, you're like sort of like walking through the movements of it?
Yeah, so Jax, I think at that point just started training. So he like knew a little bit more than we did. So he's kind of like teaching us just like this small stuff. And then we just kind of had to like wing everything else. I remember there's this one, and it was just like one on the fly thing, is Jax's mom. It was a triple threat between myself, Jax, and my friend Sam. And Jax and Jax's mom start to chant, that's Nick has no dick. Nick has no dick. And then just in my head, I'm like, this fucking piece of shit. And we had like a folding chair. And I just full on Sabu throw the folding chair.
Oh, shit. I thought you were going to say you threw the folding chair at his mom, and I'm like, whoa.
No.
Fuck you.
Another thing we did is one of the things is Jax's mom said, all right, this is my, like, she had this little trolley, and it was like, it held like the pegs for the clothesline and everything. And she's like, please don't use this. It's like on its last legs. Don't do anything with it. So we had on the first show, because the show I'm talking about is the second show. On the first show that we had like all four of us in a fatal four-way. And it was either me or my friend Sam. And we find this and we're like, screw it. All right, we know we got told, but we're going to use it anyway. And we just start ramming it into people and they start bumping for it. And Jackson's mom was like, no, stop using it.
So she wasn't smartened up to the business straight away.
Well, like she knew and everything. She was just very upset that we were using it.
Jesus, man. But like, like it sounds like, looking back at like your time in the backyard though, like, would you suggest like kids nowadays, like try and avoid doing that sort of stuff and more towards going to a training school? Or do you think it's like, as long as it's done safely and you're not doing like crazy shit, it's okay?
It really, for me, I always think that you should be trained, you should be doing it and everything. But at the same time, kids are going to be kids. Kids are always going to try and do what they see on TV, no matter how many times they're told not to do that. Like when I was a kid, I didn't have any wrestling friends. I didn't know anyone. So I would literally just like get my pillows and get like stuffed animals and I would just like wrestle them. Like I would come home, because when I would get home, Raw was on Wednesdays, SmackDown was on Fridays. So I would just like, while watching Raw and SmackDown, I would be wrestling my pillows, doing all the thing that they were doing on the show. And it's just like, that kids are going to be kids. It's always going to be the same way, no matter how many times you're going to tell them not to do it. They're going to want to do it more because you told them not to do it. But once you get to that age, you should be going, like, if you truly want to be doing wrestling, you should be going to school, and you should be going to a reputable school.
Yeah, like you get shown the proper way of being able to do it. And I think like kids that are like 5 and 6 years old is one thing, but I think if they're going out there trying to do backyard wrestling, then there's a severe problem with the parents. But but I think as well, like you're right, like if it gets to a stage like you're at that age, it's time to sort of look at, if you want to do it properly, you learn how to do it correctly, because there's so much that goes into professional wrestling that I think a lot of people, like regular fans, don't understand, whether it be timing, footwork, knowing where certain cameras are depending on the level that you're on, being able to go athletically and having a cardiovascular that can sort of push forward with that,
Yeah, especially with the hard cam thing, the amount of times that I've had to go up to someone who's in like, a submission or they're doing something, I just go, hey, hard cam, brother. Unbelievably amount of times.
Well, guys just forget because they're in the moment.
Yeah, because they're just like doing it, and I'm just like, hard cam, guys. I remember, because like I do that as well. Like, I tell people like what time they're at and whatnot. And I remember there was this one, and it was VIP, which is Jax Jordan and Jax's former tag partner Jared Ido versus Conco and the Fudge. And it was a ladder match. And they were given, I think it was about 10 to 12 minutes or something. They're at like 15 and they're nowhere near finished yet. So I go to Jax, I'm on the outside because it's a ladder match. So I'm on the outside, he's in the corner. And I turn to him and I'm like, hey, you're at 12. You need to like wrap this up soon. And he turns to me because at the time he was like, helping running the company that this was at. He just turns to me, he's like, I run this company. We go however the fuck long we want. And then like 2 minutes later they ended and he's like, hey, I'm sorry about blowing up at you. Just like backstage. He was so in the moment. He's like, we're doing whatever we want.
I mean, was it a good match? Was it flowing well?
It was a fun match. It was really fun because all four of them understood it was a dumb ladder match. Like, it was just something just to kind of like have fun with, do this stuff, but also be a ladder match. So they were having a lot of fun with it. They were doing all this stuff. I just love Jack saying that because it's such a Jack's thing to say, specifically to me, because that's pretty much what our friendship is me being an idiot and Jack's going, shut the fuck up.
What was the promotion that you guys were working?
It was Wrestling Go. This was like way back when. This would have been 2017.
Yeah, right. Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, like, for you in that moment, like, how do you feel now being confident to go up in a match to perform two wrestlers and saying, hey guys, you need to bring it home? Like, they could be having a banger of a match, but you get that sort of see the adjust of the tie or the touch of the nose that it's time to bring it home. How do you feel to inject yourself in that?
For me personally, I know that they know how long they have. I know that they understand that. So I'll be giving them time cues throughout that. I'll never tell them it's like, hey, you got to take it home, or hey, you should wrap this up soon. I'm always just like, yep, you're at 4 minutes. Yep, you're at 6 minutes. Yep, you're at 7 minutes. Just, checking my watch, letting them know. Because they know, oh, I have 8 minutes. He's just said 6. We need to start, like, wrapping this up.
Yeah.
Some people will go over that just because they won't listen because there's so much going on. And I know that's happened so many times. There was what was it? It was like the 16-person tag match at the end of last year with like all the people in the Premiership.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to tell each individual person what time they're at. I was just like, nope, you're just going to do your thing, and I'm going to stand here until a pinfall or submission is happening. I would try to give cues to some people at the start, but like 5 minutes in, I'm just like, there's been 9 separate people in the ring at this point. I'm just going to stop.
I mean, at that point, with that size of a matchup, and like, is it like that much of a that many people in a wrestling match? It's like it's bound for like crazy shit to happen and to be a bit of a cluster. I thought the match was great considering how many people were in it. I thought it was an absolute banger.
Especially
as far as having to,
because like with all the people in there, like you saying that it was a great match, to me, it's just like, of course it was a great match. The amount of just ideas that all those people would have had with each other, with just so much happening in that. You have so many veterans and so many newcomers as well, because you have guys like Billy Preston, Jimmy Townsend, and Kingsley who were in there, but you also had people like Moretti, Bonza, like even Wahlberg as well, who has been doing it for like way less time than them, but still learned so much. Like all those people meshed in there, and like everybody else who's just so good. Like I'm completely forgetting their velocities, who just are an insane tag team. Jessica Troy, who I genuinely believe is one of the best wrestlers in the country. And there's an argument to be made saying the best wrestler, and having all these people just smushed into one match, just doing all this stuff that goes, I think, if I remember correctly, it was like 25 minutes or something. And at no point there was a lull, there was something that was bad about it. It just meshed so well. And it's only in places like PWA that can you do something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it shows at the level of performers as well that you guys have, where it's like they know what they need to do. They know what spots they need to be in, where they need to be at the times they need to be in, because of the quality of what they've trained at. But I think as well, like, in that moment of being in those massive clusters and stuff like that, for you as a referee, like how important is for you to stay calm throughout these matches? Like, obviously some of these big crazy spots that happen, these guys, they're not making cupcakes. There's possibilities of injury throughout it.
Yeah.
But as far as like being a referee and seeing something crazy, seeing someone who might get a little bit knocked, cuckoo.
Yeah.
What's the directive they give you as far as like, okay, if you see someone who's like out of it, like, do you just have to stop the match or work out a way how to sort of end the match without sort of, giving it up straight away?
So pretty much what we've been told is in the ring as a referee, you are the end all be all of it. Like if you call it, you've called it. Just because you're like a pseudo prop for the wrestling match doesn't mean that you don't have power in there. And especially with stuff going awry, like an injury or God forbid someone getting concussed, when stuff like that happens, it's up to the referee's discretion on what's going on. And I know that we've been told straight up that if anything like that happens, you like if someone gets knocked out, someone gets severely concussed, the match is over. Doesn't matter what, you call it, it's the end of the match. You're not going to try and get that person to continue on. You're not going to try and get that person to, see if they can come to. Wrestling, as much as it's about looking like you're beating up your opponent, it's about keeping everyone safe. And as soon as someone is going to be put in a position where they aren't, you need to stop that as soon as possible.
And I think as well, like for like performers and athletes, when they're asked, even when they're injured, they're going to say, no, I'm going to keep going. You know what I mean? Because it's that will to sort of keep striving and that passion that's inside them, where it's almost like they need someone there at that moment to think long term for them and save them from themselves to a certain degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know for me, the only time that something like that was something very serious was happening was I think it was the main event of a Nui show. It was Matt Diamond versus Mick Moretti. And the opening spot that they were doing kind of got screwed up. So they kind of had to deal with something. And I remember Diamond going off the ropes. Moretti goes up, hits him with a drop kick, but Diamond doesn't realize it's happening and gets hit square in the face. Now, thank God, wasn't concussed or anything, but he goes down. I see Moretti go for the pin, and I see blood starting to come from Diamond's face. So I'm like, oh shit. So I go wait, hold on. I take a look, and I'm kind of like talking to him. He's answering me. I can see that he's okay. He's just got some blood. And I tell him, I'm like, look, the cut's under your eye. Do you want to keep going? Or do you want to, what do you want to do? And he's like, is it under my eye? I'm like, yeah. It's like, it's not getting into anything. I'm like, as far as I'm aware, no, it doesn't seem like it's a major cut or anything. He's like, yeah, I'm good. So I'm like, all right, I understand that he's okay. He's good because we were having a conversation. He's not like confused or anything. And throughout the match, I was making sure that there wasn't a concussion or anything, but thank God he was completely okay. They had a good match after that. It was really good because it's fucking Mick Moretti versus Matt Diamond. Of course, it's going to be a good match.
100%.
But just learning about that just in that split second, it was terrified. Like I was genuinely terrified that something like that was going to happen. And I feel for like recently from back in, April when Paris unfortunately got knocked out during his match with Aussie Open. Like Ando was on the ball quick as money about that. He immediately saw that Paris was injured, immediately pushed people away. He counted the 3 for the finish of the match and immediately went back to him, immediately started helping him out and everything. And I'm glad that Ando was in that situation and not me, because I don't know if I would have done the same thing. And that's what I mean by Ando being good at his job. He knows what he's doing, especially in stuff like that. He knows how to keep calm. He knows how to understand what to do and when to do it, both in a wrestling standpoint, but in a real life standpoint as well. And seeing that, it made me go, okay, we truly have these performers lives in our hands at times. And that made me change kind of the way that I think about it. Because it's always something that you hear about, but once you see it, it's a completely different story.
Yeah. And I think as well, once you're in that bubble as well, and you're in that moment and you're the you know what I mean? Like you're the third guy in the ring, the fifth guy in the ring, whatever cliche you want to give it. You're also the person there that sort of can relay messages to the back, to the guys and back and forth. But as far as in that moment, we're talking a live pay-per-view main event on Fight TV. One of the guys in the team gets, knocked out. How long did that match go after Paris's, knocked out? Because I know
genuinely, thank God it was like the final moments of that match. Like legitimately, it was just like the move that unfortunately knocked Paris out. He goes down, and we kind of all like we're all watching it backstage. I'm pretty sure the entire locker room was back there. Immediately as he hits the ground, we're like, okay, something's up. So we're all like, okay, what do we do? Who's out there? So we're all trying to get that forward. But watching the match back, they pretty much get Jude out of the way. They try to go to Paris. Ando's like, nope. And they go to Jude. They hit him with a finish. 1, 2, 3, ends. So I'm pretty sure that was the plan for the end. But if not, they worked amazingly to get to that point. And I like genuinely for Jude, for Kyle, and for Davis, all of them, for that situation, especially just learning that quickly, kind of this is happening, we need to do this now. I like give them so much credit just to kind of get to the end of the show, because thank God they were the final match. We could just, as soon as that match was done, as soon as they raised the belts, we could be like, all right, everybody out, just to get like help that we needed. And I give them so much credit for just being so mature about everything, and so like not mature, but like very understanding of what's going on. And they wouldn't have known that if they were quite early on in their careers. Like, especially if that's something like that happened, like for me within the first year or two, my career, I don't know what I would have done. I would have just been frozen, being like, oh, someone's knocked out. But like someone like Ando being there and having Kyle and Davis and Jude all being there, being the veterans that they are, learning about this stuff, just having that understanding that we need to keep this person safe. I give everyone in that match so much credit.
And I think as well, like it comes down to, by keeping calm in that situation, because as soon as they start seeing people panic, and if one person starts panicking, that sort of domino effect can sometimes happen. I think as well, if it's someone like a veteran, like, the guys that you had in that ring, if one of them started panicking, the other, then it's like everything sort of turns to chaos in that moment, which is in reality what needed to happen was match needed to go home, and Paris needed to get treatment ASAP. And from what you've just explained, it's just that's how the professionals that they are, and that's how professionals perform.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know at the time of that as well, where I was working, Paris was actually working down the road. And so not that week, but the week after, we caught up for lunch and everything, and we were just chatting. And I asked him about it. It was just like, what was going through your mind, what was happening and everything. And what was going on the next days afterwards. And he was just like, yeah, it kind of like is what it is. It was what it was. I was kind of, he was saying it's like he was there, he wasn't really there and everything. And then the next days afterwards, he was kind of like doing okay. He said like, I had a bit of a headache. He took the week off of training, thank God.
Standard,
just to kind of like take care of himself. And then he, once he could, he came back like to training for a little bit, and then, lockdowns and all happened. But he also like took the time out to kind of give himself a break, not just because of that, but because he was putting in so much effort at training on shows. And I think that was very mature of him as well, knowing it's like, look, this is giving me an opportunity to take a step back for a little bit, not a long amount of time, but just a little bit. And then we can go back guns blazing when we can. And
that's crazy.
Same thing, like I was saying with the other three, Paris as well. For someone who's so young, I think he's still like 25 or something. He has such a great mind. He's so mature for his age, both in general, but also in wrestling. And I give him so much credit for that. And I know Jude as well did the same thing. Like he took some time off just to kind of help himself as well, just because I know he had some nagging injuries here and there. And just both of them realizing, even at the height of their popularity, going, you know what, we're going to take, maybe like a month off or so just to kind of cool down, to debrief, and then we can go back to when we can. Like that's a super mature thing to do, because I know a lot of people who wouldn't be able to do that just because they're like, no, go. We have to go.
But it also gives the crowd wanting to see him even that much more, like having that month 100%, off with not going shows. Then it's like when they're like, oh shit, the velocities are being advertised. we got to go to this show because, like, you know, they took a month off. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. It creates that thing. Oh, this is their first show back in a month. I got to see this shit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%.
But as far as like being like, you know, I think, you know, accidents happen in the world of professional wrestling. Have you ever been in a situation where like you've counted a pinfall which should have been a 2 count and the person didn't kick out in time? And has it ever been what's happened in that situation? And like, but let me ask you this: who's to blame? Is it the wrestler for not kicking out in time, or is it for the referee? Like where does the blame get pointed on that?
So I'll give 2 examples. There was a Wrestling Go show, and I think it was Vance Adams who was like a Melbourne worker. I don't think he's working anymore. And it was like a fatal 4-way thing. So I remember I went 1, 2, and for some reason Melbourne wrestlers really like to do late kickouts. I realized that about them. They just like to do the 2.99999. Yeah. So I'm like 1, 2, and I see he's not kicking out. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to count the 3. And I went down and I hit 3, but he kicked out, and I knew that wasn't the finish. Yeah. So I was like, no. He kicked out at 2. And I just had to like cover. I had to make it like a big thing. I was like, no. He kicked out. Thank God the crowd went with it. So yeah. On the flip side, World Series Wrestling pre-show. We're in the Hurstville Entertainment Center. It's like 500 people. Yeah. Backstage, we got guys like, we had Abyss back there wrestling his last match ever that night. We had Brian Cage, Flip Gordon. We had all of SCU, like just like big names being at this show. And I'm refereeing the pre-show. And it's Matt Diamond versus Mikey Broderick. And I know what the finish is. I know it's a diamond cutter from Diamond, 1, 2, 3. And Broderick is kind of like selling it that like he gets hit and he's stunned. So he's still kind of moving. So it's 1, 2. And I see a bit of movement and I thought that was a kick out. But I know it's not a kick out. So it was 1, 2, 3. And everyone knows I fucked up. Like everyone knows. So I raised Diamond's hand. Broderick is selling and whatnot. And he comes up to me because he's hot. I'm fucking like, you know, I'm like, oh shit. Oh fuck. Like, because I know I fucked it. And he's like, you knew the finish. What the fuck was going on? I'm like, I fucked it. I'm sorry. It's like, yeah, you did fuck it. And he walks away. I will say now, at the end of the show, he came up to me. He's like, look, I blew up at you in the ring. I shouldn't have done that. I apologize. We've never had a problem since. He was just hot at the time. And I totally get it. I would have been hot too. So, but like that happening, what sucked about it is afterwards I had like Brian Cage come up to me and be like, what fucking happened, man? I'd Flip Gordon come up to me. What fucking happened, man? I had Christopher Daniels come up to me. What fucking happened, man?
Jesus, man.
And I was just like, every time I just had to tell them the same thing. I fucked up. I knew the finish. I'm sorry. And they're like, yeah, man. And I was just like, look, I've been doing this for a few years. I know that I fucked up. I know what I should have done. He's like, look, at least you know what you did. Just don't do it again. I was like, yeah, I'm really sorry about that.
Do you think they were ribbing you by like everyone coming up and asking you? Like, did it feel like they were like you? Like,
well, I don't think they all talked about it. No, I genuinely think that they were all just independently went up to me. Like, it was just like, it wasn't like back to back to back. It was like throughout the night.
Yeah,
like there was Brian Cage just afterwards came up to me, and then after one of the matches I did, I got like Flip Gordon talked to me, and then during an admission it was Christopher Daniels, and I'm like, oh no, everyone saw it, I fucked up.
And that's the thing, if everyone no-sold it, you'd think, all right, cool, I got away with it.
But the fact that everyone came up to me.
Oh, exactly. Well, look, guys, we are at that 1 hour mark. It is time for everyone's favorite spot of the show. It is time for 60 seconds with Piers. How it's going to work. If you're new to watching the show, I'm going to fire a bunch of questions at referee Nick. He's got 60 seconds to answer as many questions as he humanly possibly can. Nick, are you ready to get this started?
Absolutely.
All right. give me the sign and we'll get it going.
Whenever you're ready, I'm all good.
Snapchat or TikTok?
TikTok 100%. Snapchat sucks.
One has to go: Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, or Harry Potter.
I've never seen Lord of the Rings. We just watched through Harry Potter, but I would say Game of Thrones up until the final 2 seasons.
Favorite song to sing at karaoke?
Rollin' by Limp Bizkit. Even though I called it a meme song to my friends, I still think it's a fun song to sing.
Which wrestler would you like to go out drinking with? Any wrestler in the world.
Pretty much anybody from ECW.
Would you like the ability to read minds or move things with your mind?
Read minds. I like to know what people are thinking at all times.
Plain fairy bread or fairy bread with Nutella?
I've never had fairy bread with Nutella. That is definitely something I need.
That's it. What was your New Year's resolution? Or what is going to be your New Year's resolution?
Get less fat.
What law would you change in Australia?
Probably the Probably the marijuana laws in Australia.
There you go. And last one, in 5 minutes, you are being shipped to outer space. What 2 personal belongings do you take with you, excluding human beings?
Probably my Switch, so I can play Animal Crossing, and probably my phone because I need to look at TikTok.
There you go, man. That's honesty right there. But guys, that has been 60 Seconds with Piers. Nick, thank you so much for coming on and being a guest on the show, man. 1 hour and 5 minutes has just sort of flown by, dude. I feel like you and I could sort of sit here and talk for a couple of hours. We definitely need to get you back on for a part 2 very soon if you're down for it, man. But
absolutely. I'm always down for it. I love this interview. Love talking to you. I'm so excited to do it again whenever you need me to.
Absolutely, man. Where can everyone find you on social media?
So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Referee Nick. You can also find me on Wrestler Merch to buy all your Referee Nick needs at wrestlermerch.com/collections/Referee Nick.
There you go, guys. Also, huge shout out to our sponsors, Sleeps.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Also, make sure to check out healthvape.com. Use the same promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Guys, make sure you tune in for some of our shows tomorrow on Get Funked, Alan Kiwi Funk. His show is going live tomorrow at 11 a.m. Australian time, which is going to be 7 p.m. USA Eastern time. So make sure you tune in for that. It's going to be one you won't want to miss. But guys, until next time, I'm Piers. This is Referee Nick, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Peace, guys.